His 8th inning out of the bullpen for the Phillies.
16th inning, 2-2 to Beltran.
Ripped in the air to deep right field. Abreu looks up, and we're going home. Beltran with a home run. Wins it for the Mets in the bottom of the 16th inning. At 12:33 a.m., Carlos Beltran ends the Mets' longest game in 11 years with a walk-off home run, his 12th of the year. And you betcha they're happy.
One of the candidates there, Mr. Beltran, for Mark Feinsand, who basically voted for everybody for the Hall of Fame. We'll have some fun with him right now as we chat. Mark, of course, MLB.com. Some baseball information, too. Before Beltran, Mark, 10 Hall of Famers on your ballot. Is this accurate? 10?
It's accurate. I had 7 from my ballot last year that returned, and I added Beltran and Billy Wagner and Todd Helton, who had not previously been on my ballot.
Now, you put Manny Ramirez on the ballot. How come?
I've been voting for Manny since he came on. Same with Alex Rodriguez. I've been a voter of guys connected to PEDs before. I think there's too many unanswered questions with a lot of them. Now, I understand with Alex and Manny, the questions aren't as unanswered. But to me, if I voted in the past for guys like Barry Bonds, like Roger Clemens, who I voted for under the presumption that they were using PEDs, then to me, the only difference between them and guys like A-Rod and Manny is that A-Rod and Manny weren't sly enough not to get caught. They were still the same players. They're some of the best players of our generation. Those two guys in particular, 2 of the best 4 right-handed hitters I've ever seen, along with Pujols and Miggy. And to me, you can't tell the story of this era of baseball and not talk about those 2 guys as 2 of the best players in the game.
But the Hall of Fame is not about telling the story of baseball. The Hall of Fame is about honoring the all-time great. You know, I don't need Manny in there to get the full history of Major League Baseball. I need Manny in there because he's clean and he's an all-time great, which he is the latter, but he isn't the former. That's, to me, the difference. How about your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Can you tell me there are not already players in the Hall of Fame that used? We don't know that. And so I feel like
Two wrongs don't make it right.
I don't disagree with that, but I looked at those 2 guys, and I don't know how long they used. I don't know if they used their whole careers, the end of their careers, whatever it may have been. They were 2 of the best players I ever saw. And to me, the purpose of having the 75% threshold in the voting body is that if 3/4 of the voters agree with what I'm saying, then those guys will get in. If they don't, they won't. Bonds and Clemens did not get in their 10 years, and yet you look at it, more than half of the voting body voted for those guys to get into the Hall of Fame by the end. They didn't get the 75%. It's a really hard threshold to meet, and so if there are enough guys and gals out there who say, I am not voting for players connected to PEDs, then none of these guys are going to get in, and it's not going to matter. But to me, I looked at those guys and said they are 2 of the best players of their generation, and I'm going to vote for them.
All right, how about Beltran with the whole thing with the Astros and the scandal, which he was the mastermind, him and Cora of. Does that bother you? Let me hear your thoughts there.
It doesn't really bother me because, A, it was the last year of Beltran's career. If he had retired prior to that season, he's a Hall of Famer for me. I think his numbers were there. His play was there. He was an excellent player his entire career who you could look at as one of the best players in the game. The 2017 thing, first of all, I think Beltran got a little bit of a little jobbed there because he was the only player from that team who was named in the report. And if he's not named specifically, if he's just part of that group, I'm not sure the outrage is quite as high as it is right now. We'll see what happens down the line with a guy like Altuve. Does that get held against him? It may very well. And Beltran's sort of the guy who sets the tone for that going down the line. But to me, if Beltran doesn't get named, and I don't think he should have because he was a player on that team, then I'm not sure this is as big of an issue as it is. Again, Carlos Beltran, to me, Hall of Famer. He's got my vote.
Interesting. Now, he retired right after this. So, I mean, theoretically, it was right after the whole scenario that he retired. And it wasn't like he made a contribution in that 17 team in any shape, way, or form anyway. But I understand. I mean, that's a tricky one. And I agree with you overall about Beltran being a Hall of Famer. Who's the one guy on your ballot that you had to think twice about either leaving him off or putting him on?
The 2 guys that I added who weren't first-timers this year, Todd Helton and Billy Wagner, hadn't voted for them in the past. Combination of my ballot being full and also me not totally having been sold. You dig into Wagner's numbers a little more. The biggest strike against him is just the pure body of work in terms of longevity, the innings. But when you look at him, 800 innings minimum, and in the fact that, basically next to Mariano Rivera, he's maybe the most accomplished relief pitcher of all time in terms of performance. I think he's only the second reliever I've ever voted for behind Rivera. So I have a pretty high bar for relievers. Helton, the Colorado thing always bothered me a little bit. The home road splits were so severe. But you look at his overall body of work, it's really impressive. And he was a guy a couple years ago, he was the 11th guy on my ballot. Now that I had a couple open spots, I fit him in this year.
Yeah, he's a 281 lifetime hitter outside of Coors Field, 281. And the Wagner problem is he bombed in spots in the postseason. And if you're a relief pitcher, to me, you have to be great. In the one postseason for Houston, he didn't use him against the Padres, and for the Mets, he was not a big closer in postseason spots. That would be my knock on Wagner.
You could say the same about Trevor Hoffman, though, and he flew in as well.
And that's why I wouldn't vote for him.
I didn't vote for him.
And that's why I wouldn't have voted for Trevor Hoffman. That's why I wouldn't have voted for him. He would never have gotten my vote. He never got big outs. He never would have got my vote. So to me, a relief pitcher has to get the big out. It's unfair because you can be great in the regular season and have that 2 or 3 bad outings, but it's like a field goal kicker. If you don't make the big kicks, you can't be in the Hall of Fame. If you don't get the big outs in safe situations, you can't be a Hall of Famer. You did not pay attention to that with Wagner. Is that correct?
I didn't really. I don't hold postseason performance against guys as much as I credit them for good postseason performance. Because let's say Wagner had the exact same regular season career and never got to the postseason because he was on lousy teams. I wouldn't have held his bad postseason against him. So I look more at the full body of your work, mostly in the regular season. To me, the postseason can only lift your candidacy than hurt it. Because you got to the postseason.
Good job.
You helped your team get there.
Excellent job. Well done. Good way to fight me off. Keep up the good work, Mark. Happy holidays. Thanks very much. Happy New Year, I should say. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming on.
You too, Doug.
Of Nate Colbert. He, of course, a great Padre from the early 70s. Still the career leader in home runs for the franchise at 163. Had the 5 home runs in the doubleheader, which matched Musial, who he saw as a boyhood kid when Stan hit the 5 in the doubleheader there in St. Louis in the mid-50s. Randy Jones was a teammate. He, of course, won a Cy Young as well, lefty pitcher, and he says, joins us here, we wish on a better moment, but we need to serve Nate well. Randy, it's nice to have you with us. Great to have you aboard here. Fun-loving guy. Hit a lot of home runs in a tough ballpark to hit him in. Let me get your thoughts on him. Go ahead.
Well, he was a great leader. In the early 70s, I broke in 73, kind of took me under his wing, taught me how to do the game right in the big leagues, and I never forgot it. I mean, I really appreciated all his time and effort. Him and Cito Gaston were my teammates, and I spent a lot of time, and just can't say enough about his leadership and what he did for his fellow players. A great player all by himself, but he was always there to help somebody out.
Did he ever get pitched to? I mean, the Padres were an expansion team in '69. He hit a lot of home runs in a 4-year period, and he had nobody around him. So how did he hit all these homers with no protection in the lineup? Thoughts there?
Absolutely amazing. That's how good a hitter he was. If you think about Qualcomm or Jack Murphy Stadium, I think he hit like 38 home runs, and he hit that wall probably another 20 times at least. That wasn't a home run at that point in time. Had to go out into the seats, but if that had that temporary wall, that 38 could have turned into 58 home runs easily. Really could have.
Now I know you weren't. He was a heck of a power hitter. Now, I know you weren't there the year before when he had that unbelievable doubleheader against Atlanta with the 5 homers and 1 million RBIs, but that was fresh in every Padre player recollection in the following spring. What can you tell me about that?
Well, like I told Nate, I still think somebody was telling him what was coming. I'm an old pitcher. I'm an old pitcher, so, I'm always going to think that. But, hey, just an incredible feat for him that day. It was unbelievable. And that's what baseball's all about. Records are made to be broken, and Nate just did a phenomenal job. That's all I can say.
Now, they put him in the outfield when they brought in McCovey, and he was a first baseman, not a left fielder, so that was tricky for him. What can you tell me there, Randy?
Well, you got to make room. You can bring McCovey in at that time, and Ray Kroc decided that, wanted to make some moves, and Tito Fuentes is second. Had to move Nate somewhere. I know he wasn't happy about it, but still, he's a professional. He played him on his bat in the lineup. That was the key thing. Overall, he was a team player, even when he left the Padres. But, overall, I just know what he did in 73, 74 for me, just being a leader. And, I came in from Double-A, Chris, and I didn't have any clothes. I had a pair of jeans and a shirt, and Nate went out and got me a sports coat in Montreal, so at least I'd look halfway decent. And those are the little things that nobody even knows about.
Well, that's a great story. So in Montreal, Nate said, hey, this is not good enough. You got to act and look like a big leaguer. And he bought you a sports coat. He had a bad back, too, got in the way there when he went to Detroit. Play with some physical pain, Randy. Last thing. How about that?
Yeah, well, the one great thing, what a great teammate, great memories of Nate Colbert. And what he meant to the club and his other teammates. He was always great about that, and a great guy to run, bounce things off of it. He was always there, available for everybody. I can't say enough kind words of what he did.
Excellent job for you, a Cy Young Award winner in your own right. Randy, thank you. Nice to get a few words here.